Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I apologise for the late start there. We just had a couple of technical difficulties, but we are here on the streets of Monaco for round 10 of the 2021 AROC Halfords International Formula Alfa Championship. We're on for a good race, I think. I always love the streets of Monaco, and in these little multi-air powered cars, it should be a good opportunity for some exciting battles around the street circuit. We're now approaching the final 3 rounds of this championship, in fact, and we've still got a very close fight for the championship, with 6 points separating our championship leader Matt Daly and Colin Kanee. So it's anyone's game for now. As we see, I believe that is Alex Smith setting a 1:35.1 there, with Colin Kanee very close behind indeed. So in about the first 10 minutes of qualifying, we're not seeing too much action, and no one's been able to really put in an absolute banger of a lap so far, as we see Steve Knight just understeering heavily at the hotel chicane there. Pardon me, the hotel hairpin there. My mistake. As he heads into tunnel now. That's something that throughout, regardless of what category you're racing in, something that you do have to deal with here is that very sharp hairpin. It's completely different to anything else you'd otherwise deal with in a race car, and as you can see there, the front end was really pushing quite hard. We are, in fact, as we see Steve Knight, in fact we see even more unstiff for Steve Knight there, as he rides the curbs, and we head into turn 15. We see a lot of drivers in F1 make some pretty dangerous mistakes there. Luckily, Steve Knight keeping it on the track there as he heads into Rascasse. And onto the start-finish straight now. He comes to the end of his lap. It looked there'll be a couple of areas where he wants to clean up his drive a little bit there. Luckily, he's got many more opportunities as the timer screen updates with quite a few cars there. We can see Steve Knight is at the bottom of the grid so far. Will Harper is slightly ahead of him. And we have Alex Smith still taking pole position for the moment, with Alan Matthews about 2 seconds behind. So Colin Kanee and Alex Smith are really having their good little battle for pole position at the moment, but I'm sure that is going to change within the next 15 minutes. No sign of Matt Daly again. For now, we've seen in the past couple of rounds now, Matt Daly isn't present for the first kind of 20 or so minutes of qualifying, because he doesn't need to be, usually. So we have a time screen update with a few more drivers there. Matt Daly, impressive driver that he is able to just turn up with the last couple of minutes of qualifying, put in a good lap, and go on to have a very good race. We see Alan Matthews heading through Casino there, just having a little bit of a mistake. That saw him in the wall. Doesn't look like there is any severe aero damage on his car, so we will be able to carry on. Yeah, so final 3 rounds now. This championship has half gone quick. Yeah, I'm really reveling this championship battle that will carry on, unless we have a disaster for Colin Kanee. That will carry on into the very late stages of this championship. We do have, owing to the nature of Monaco, a new rule implemented in terms of track limits. Drivers are now given 4... I'll have to double check actually. I believe it's 4 warnings for cutting track limits. So places like the Nouvelle Chicane are a common one, as well as Saint-Devote, where drivers will have to make sure they're keeping it on the track, because after 4 kind of violations of those track limit rules, it is a drive-through penalty. We're going straight to a drive-through penalty because the pit lane isn't too long here. It shouldn't be too harsh. So yeah, we're going straight to a drive-through penalty for the drivers if they refuse to keep it on track. So you see Alan Matthews making a couple more mistakes there through the Nouvelle Chicane, or pardon me, that is actually the swimming pool section, my mistake. And he saw the front end of his car meeting a barrier there. So you can't do that too many times, especially during the race. This could be a race for attrition, of course. Monaco, it might not be the best track in the world in terms of overtaking, but it does throw a few surprises at you, as we see Rob Whitney riding the curbs into Saint-Devote there, and was very lucky to keep it out of the barriers. Alex Smith has actually gone out and improved his lap ever so slightly, and has nearly gained a 10th on Colin Kanee now. So Still not comfortable yet. Apologies, I'll just have to go into my game configuration and just tweak a couple of settings regarding the camera because I currently don't have control of it, as I've just discovered. Ooh, as we just watch, this is an exact replica of the Monaco race for Formula 1. I've just had an immense amount of track action. We just saw Will Harper at the swimming pool section put it in a wall, and unfortunately the screen is focused on something entirely differently. So that was completely unintentional, but yeah, we really are at the cutting edge of Monaco broadcasting technology there. We are rivaling Formula 1. Let's bring you back with the action in just a moment. We are now on board with Colin Kanee. You still can't see anything as Colin Kanee heads through the hotel hairpin. So apologies for this. You should join us in just a moment, but I can tell you that we're on board with Colin Kanee as he heads into the tunnel now. I have lost my timing, unfortunately, so I can't quite see if he is on a quick one. It doesn't look like he is. And again, this may just be me thinking that the multi-air engine in these cars is not that powerful. He is, in fact, on a quick one. It's showing as... Well, you aren't seeing anything in the moment, unfortunately. Now you are! Yay! Fixed itself just in the nick of time. Yes, so this is Colin Kanee's quick lap. Unfortunately, I have lost my timing for some reason, which won't be very helpful for the remaining 12 minutes of this session, and Colin Kanee has abandoned that lap, actually. He has abandoned that lap. As we are with Alex Smith now, who is heading through the tunnel section. This may get a little bit difficult now in the remaining kind of 10 minutes without any timing. We're going to have to kind of just click through the drivers and hope that one of them is on a quick lap. As there is, in fact, something loading on. Oh, we're on board with Alan Matthews, who's just had a nasty accident at the swim pool section. He needs to wait there as Steve Knight slows down to join him. With Alex Smith shortly behind it. Good of Alan Matthews to wait there. Matt Daly has joined us now and has already set a 1:35.3 pretty much. Not sure if he'll try... No, he won't carry on this lap. Very good time for him already. In the remaining 10 minutes, I'm sure he will find some additional time as well. Paul Millman, a driver who we haven't seen that much of so far in this qualifying, is 2 seconds off the pace at the moment, sitting relatively high up in 5th. He is riding the curb in the hotel hairpin and is getting very familiar with the walls there. Luckily not finding his way into the walls, but trying to set a quick lap. It's always a balancing act here at Monaco. If you're trying to push and find that additional grip on the very extremes of the circuit, but of course go, you know, millimetres too far and you'll find yourself at a barrier very quickly. So this race might not necessarily be a test of outright pace. It could just be a case of consistency, looking after the car, and a race of attrition maybe. As we're on board again with Colin Kanee. Heading into Rascas now. And we are now in the final 10 minutes of qualifying. We're going to stay with Colin Kanee as he starts his fast lap. Into Saint-Devote then. He is clipping the curb ever so slightly, taking that kind of middle line into Saint-Devote. There isn't... The traditional racing line doesn't really work into Saint-Devote as he heads through Beaurivage and into Massenet now. Expertly done by Colin Kanee there. As we head into Casino. He is kind of hooking to the right ever so slightly to avoid that big bump on the downhill into Mirabeau. And into the hairpin now. Very nicely done. He didn't scrub off too much speed there. Looked like he just got particularly close to a wall then, but it didn't seem to lose too much speed. And we are now through Portier and into the tunnel section. As we head towards the Nouvelle Chicane now. Again, another balancing act is the Nouvelle Chicane, and it looks like Colin Kanee has judged that well enough there as he finds just over a 10th in the first couple of sectors. We head through to back and into the swimming pool section now, and towards Raskas we go. Again, there's another corner that is an absolute balancing act. You don't want to miss the racing line there through Raskas, but you also don't want to find yourself in a wall on the exit of Raskas there. And across the line, Colin Kanee does take pole position with a 1:34.39. A very impressive lap from Colin Kanee there. He's nearly found a second on his closest rival. He'll be very happy with that. But Matt Daly has improved, actually, and is now only 3/10 behind Colin Kanee. So Matt Daly is ramping up quite quickly in terms of pace now, and there could be a good little battle as we head into the final 5 minutes of this qualifying session. I wouldn't say pole is safe for Colin Kanee now, with just under 3/10 separating him and second place. Of course, qualifying at this circuit is hugely important. There aren't as many overtaking opportunities as other circuits, like I was about to say Barcelona, but pretend I mentioned that. If you look at, say, Portimao, for example, these cars obviously can make good use of the amount of space at tracks like Barcelona or Portimao, whereas here they are relatively much bigger cars. Colin Kanee then, as he heads through the Nouvelle Chicane, has improved yet again, despite being on a used set of tyres. He has found only 2/10. As we head through the swimming pool section now. A little bit of oversteer into Raskas there. And we are now on the start-finish straight with Colin Kanee. Will it be enough? No, it looks like that last sector cost him badly there, unfortunately. Probably the tyres, I imagine, screaming for mercy. Yeah, if you're looking to Saint-Devote there, the back end was just stepping out ever so slightly, which is not easily done, these 170 horsepower engine cars. So Colin Kanee, into the final 5 minutes of this session, will be wanting to get a new set of boots on, I can imagine. Apologies there, I've missed Alex Smith taking pole away from Colin Kanee there. I am just like the Monaco TV directors at this point. Alex Smith has found a nice bit of pace. Perhaps the track is ramping up now as we head into the final few minutes of this qualifying session. The track is ramping up maybe, but we've seen Alex Smith in the past few races had some impressive qualifying pace, and he is now 2/10 up on Colin Kanee. It's a bit of a slower lap this time, so I'm not sure if he'll continue. He's lost half a second in Sector 2. Maybe if he nails Sector 3, he can still put in a competitive time. Into Raskas then goes Alex Smith. Not quite the same amount as over rotation as Colin Kanee there, but it didn't look electric in terms of pace, so I doubt he'll be improving this time around. No, he will not be. Kept it under a second slower, so shows he's got some consistency in him, which is very important for the race here, as looking after your tyres can pay dividends towards the end of this race, really, especially as we are not scheduled to pit. On board with Matt Daly then, heading through the Nouvelle Chicane. Fortunately, I'm unable to see if he's on a quick lap at the moment, as the timing screen hasn't quite popped up. We will find out towards the end, though. This may well be an outlap. This track doesn't overwork the tyres that hard, so you do have to have a fairly aggressive outlap. A little bit of oversteer from Matt Daly there. Bit too early on throttle, perhaps. And I believe we should see the timing system. Yeah, there you go. So we are now on the hot lap with Matt Daly, our current championship leader, who has only got a 6-point advantage over Colin Kanee heading into this, the round 10, with only 3 rounds to go of this championship. He isn't secure in his top step in the championship standings as we head into Massenet. Hugging the wall there. And again, very close to the wall into Casino. Dodging, in fact, dodging by quite a mile there, the bump on the downhill into Mirabeau. And onto the Hotel Hairpin now. Again, nicely done by Matt Daly. Much like Colin, Kanee didn't scrub off too much speed at all. Didn't really look like there was too much understeer. This is an open setup championship after all, and maybe Colin Kanee and Matt Daly have nailed setups. I saw Colin Kanee being generous in the behind the scenes and was preparing setups as he does every round, so big thank you to him. But maybe he has kept one back for himself perhaps, and has found one that works quite nicely through that corner there. Matt Daly doesn't improve. He is in fact a little bit slower, just under a tenth slower. That's not the end of the world, and he may be able to salvage this attempt at pole. He is half a second down on Alex Smith at the moment. Very good lap. Took, I imagine, took Colin Kanee and Matt Daly by surprise. Took me by surprise. I didn't even notice it happened. As we exit onto the start-finish straight now with Matt Daly. It's going to be close, I think. Sector 3 didn't look that quick, and unfortunately it's not quick enough. It is just under half a second off where he needs to be. Paul Millman improves there with a 136.9. Yeah, this will be a slow lap, it looks like. A little bit of oversteer into Sandoval there for him. Although, actually, I'll double check that, because as we saw with Colin Kanee and Matt Daly, the tyres, they are struggling. Yeah, this is a slow lap. They are struggling towards the end. We'll stay with Colin Kanee as he heads into the Nouvelle Chicane. They are struggling towards the end of a second quick laps, but they are capable of putting in a decent time. Such is the nature of the tarmac here. Yep, it's just over half a second slower for Colin Kanee there, so it doesn't look like he'll be challenging for pole just for the moment, unless he can find just over 7 tenths in Sector 3. It can be done. Of course, so much of this, so much of the track distance here is spent in slow corners comparative to other tracks, so if you nail the corners here, you can make a big difference. And it was just over a second slower there for Colin Kanee. So Colin Kanee is probably going to, I imagine, going to want to pit quite quickly, although I don't think, with just over a minute to go, I don't think this may be his last attempt. I don't think he'll be able to, yeah, he won't be able to go out for the fresh set of tyres. And it doesn't look like these tyres are particularly happy, as the car just kind of looks a little bit nervous to me almost, as he heads down towards Mirabeau. Just over a tenth slower than his best for Colin Kanee there. Matt Daly is not far behind, heading through Casino there. And Alex Smith is just behind him as well, so Alex Smith not feeling confident on pole there at all. Apologies for that there. We will go back with Colin Kanee. He has found 2 tenths on his best so far as we head into the final sector now. He has got traffic in front. They may be on a quick lap, so they may not want to concede. This could get quite messy for him at Rascasse if he's not careful. Doesn't look like it'll affect him too much as Paul Millman, luckily for Colin Kanee, dives into the pits there. Unable to improve on his laps, perhaps. Will it be quicker for Colin Kanee? He found 2 tenths before. It's not, unfortunately. It's just nearly 2 tenths. He does actually improve, pardon me. He does improve his time there. But it's not enough for pole position for Colin Kanee. As Matt Daly looks like he won't... Oh, he does improve. He does take pole. Matt Daly is on pole position. This could be hugely important for his championship fight, as Alex Smith has actually abandoned his quick lap there. Matt Daly takes pole position here in Monaco at round 10. That could provide huge gains, huge advantages as we head into the latter stages of the championship, which he is leading, but he is only leading by a very small margin as we see Alan Matthews just clipping the wall there. So a fairly exciting qualifying session here in Monaco, as it always is at Monaco. Hugely important for the race which will be going ahead in just a few minutes now, so stay with us. I believe we're on for a very good weekend here. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Welcome then to race 1 of round 10 of the 2021 AROC Halfords Formula Alpha International Championship. Just over 30 seconds until lights out. Matt Daly is sitting on pole with Alex Smith closely behind and Colin Kanee closely behind him. Let's hope all the drivers keep it clean into Sandoval. We should be on for a very good race. Here at the historic street circuit, we'll be hoping for some really good track action in these multi-air powered Tartus FA01 cars. And the gantry is ready. The lights are climbing up, the revs are rising. And we are away. Matt Daly, Alex Smith and Colin Kanee all get a very good launch, with Colin Kanee probably getting the best out of the three there. He is nearly neck and neck with Alex Smith and is going to keep the inside line there and is going to kind of push him a little bit, but not too much really. All top three drivers retaining their positions. Colin Kanee actually looks like he, for a second there, was under a little bit of pressure from Alan Matthews. As I see Alan Matthews' car pushing quite wide there towards the wall. Colin Kanee's had a little bit of contact with the wall heading down into Mirabeau. Doesn't look like it's affected him too much, but that is not what you need at the very start of a race, and a long weekend it will be for Colin Kanee. That is how it carries on. Alex Smith didn't quite get the hairpin right though. And now has Colin Kanee for company. He pushed out a little bit too wide, shrugged off too much speed, and has allowed Matt Daly to just kind of walk away as he heads into the tunnel. So Alex Smith now has a train of very angry cars behind him now. As we see Colin Kanee exploring the inside line of the Nouvelle Chicane there before he enters, because he has got to defend from Alan Matthews while he is trying to hunt down Alex Smith, in fact. So Colin Kanee isn't exactly in an easy position there, as we see the train of cars following close behind. All the drivers have kept relatively close together on lap 1, which is good to see. No major incidents as we head through the swimming pool section now. Matt Daly has nearly edged out 2 seconds on Alex Smith, so Matt Daly, with no challenge from Alex Smith, has been allowed to just kind of leap away while Alex Smith has been kind of defending from Colin Kanee on lap 1. And we start lap 2 now. Alex Smith will not be feeling particularly comfortable in that car at the moment. As we head through Sandoval, Colin Kanee is still just on the gearbox of him, really. See a train of cars forming, really, up until Andrew Whitehead, when there is a bit of a gap for Steve Knight. I'm not sure if there's some connection issues, because I saw Steve Knight's name join the timing screen quite late there. Colin Kanee getting familiar with that wall heading down into Mirabeau again. Maybe it's a very quick line, but looks like quite a risky one as well, as we see Alex Smith scrubbing off a bit too much speed at the hairpin again. He is able to keep Colin Kanee behind as we head into the tunnel now. But he can't keep making that mistake too much, because Colin Kanee is going to capitalise on that eventually. Much like we saw on lap 1 of the Formula 1 race, where we saw the 2 Hasses, where Mick Schumacher just barged his way through. Colin Kanee approaching 125 miles an hour through the speed trap there. Quite a lot for this tiny street circuit, it must be said. He is not letting up. He is right on the tail of Alex Smith as we head into the swimming pool section now. Into Rascasse then. Colin Kanee is kind of darting to the part of the track that Alex Smith isn't using. I don't know if he's trying to find a quicker line or he's just trying to intimidate Alex Smith there, but Colin Kanee knows that this means a lot, this race does, in his championship fight. He needs to score well here and at Baku next time round if he has a hope of running away with the silverware. So this Monaco weekend is mighty important, and Alex Smith is currently putting a stopper on his effort, it must be said. Alex Smith is allowing a couple of mistakes to creep in, as did Colin Kanee on lap 1 here. He keeps clean of the wall this time. But yeah, he's allowing a couple of mistakes to creep in, but crucially he is defending well and is not allowing Colin Kanee to just breeze on by as he squeezes Colin Kanee very aggressively there on the exit of the hairpin and almost makes contact. In fact, he may have made contact. It keeps him behind just for now, but heading into the tunnel, they look to be neck and neck with Alex Smith just pushing out in front. Colin Kanee is Very close to the gearbox of Alex Smith this time round, though, as we head into the Nouvelle Chicane. Colin Kanee almost copying him out of the Nouvelle Chicane there. He is so close behind, but unfortunately he just hasn't got the track to make the move. But he has found Alex Smith's weakness, and it appears to be the hairpin. It may just be down to part of the track where he's not comfortable, or it could just be setup of the car. We've saw throughout qualifying that Colin Kanee was very comfortable through that hairpin, as was Matt Daly, in fact, who is nearly 2.5 seconds out in front now. We just catch a glimpse of his car out in first there. But Colin Kanee does not look to be too much slower than the two cars in front, although, having said that, he's dropped back a little bit on the exit of Rascasse. But as we approach the hotel hairpin, I imagine he will be right on the gearbox of Alex Smith again, leading him to make some aggressive defensive manoeuvres, it must be said. But as long as no major mistakes are made, no harm done. It's just racing. Colin Kanee edging his way to the wall before he darts right to avoid the big bump again, and into Mirabeau now. Alex Smith approaches quite... It looks like that was a little bit better from Alex Smith that time. He kept to the right-hand side of the hairpin and dived in. Typical racing line through that hairpin, and it seems to work for him quite well. Yeah, the previous lap, it really didn't play to Alex Smith's hand there, but it seems to have gone a bit better for him this time around. Elsewhere then, we've been focusing on this battle for a good few laps now. Out in front, we have Matt Daly, who has just breezed past the field for now. He's not lunged away, it must be said. But we just can't look away from this battle that's happening a few seconds down the road from him, because Colin Kanee is not letting up at all. Impressive driving from both of these participants here. Alex Smith able to keep the very quick Colin Kanee behind, and Colin Kanee able to put up a huge challenge without making a major mistake on these very tight and twisty Monaco street circuit. Alex Smith had a little bit of rotation on the back end there, exiting Rascasse, it must be said, or pardon me, turn 18 there, onto the start-finish straight. Colin Kanee has just set a very quick lap there of a 1:34.9. That's not far off some people's qualifying laps. In fact, it is quicker than some people's qualifying laps. A very good lap from Colin Kanee there. That's not what you want to see if you are Alex Smith, although it looks like, I don't know if that's a setup thing maybe. We saw this on the past couple of laps. Alex Smith can kind of walk away a little bit down the straights. Maybe he sacrificed a little bit of the car's rotation on turn in to get a bit of straight line speed advantage. So see, Alex Smith kind of left the door open for him there on the inside, and Colin Kanee did try and place his car there, but he was able to shut the door just in the nick of time. So Colin Kanee knows that's his major overtaking opportunity against Alex Smith there. He seems to be pretty neck and neck otherwise, but Colin Kanee just seems to be absolutely nailing that hairpin. Only 130 miles an hour for Colin Kanee now in the slipstream of Alex Smith. He is looking very racy indeed. And it must be said, these three drivers have absolutely walked away from the rest of the field. We've seen Alan Matthews, who was having a couple of issues keeping it out of the wall in qualifying, is about 7 seconds down on P3 at the moment. So it looks like the podium, unless there is a huge accident, we see Colin Kanee exploring Rascasse there, under braking, getting very close to the behind of Alex Smith. Unless these three have a major incident, or we see a drive-through penalty owing to some track limits violations, it looks like the podium's pretty much set. Very quick drivers here, the top three. Again, we see Alex Smith just walking away from Colin Kanee a little bit as we head into the remaining 15 minutes or so of this race. So yeah, nearly 8 seconds, in fact it is 8 seconds between P3 and P4. And then we have just over 2 seconds between him and Paul Millman. And then again, another gap is forming between Will Harper and Guy Swarbrick. We could be on for a good little battle between Will and Guy for P6 and respectively now, as we head into Mirabeau. Guy Swarbrick isn't close enough to the back end of Will Harper for the moment to really put some pressure on him, but Will Harper will know that he is there. The mirrors on these cars aren't particularly big, but this isn't a particularly big track, so you won't be seeing much other than some pretty buildings and the car who's behind you. And we join the action out in front again. So see, Alex Smith is actually edging a little bit closer towards Matt Daly now, which is quite interesting. He has got, I say he's got a little bit of a gap comparative to his past couple of laps where where Colin Kanee was effectively part of his car. That gap is building out a little bit now to where there's, as we saw there, nearly a second. Yeah, Alex Smith is on some decent pace now with a 134.5. Has managed to get a second on Colin Kanee for the moment, and maybe wanting to hunt down Matt Daly if things go his way. He's got to remember, though, to keep his cool, though. It's so easy to make a major mistake here, which can just absolutely ruin your weekend. Alex Smith is, I am right in thinking, is third in the championship. I may be mistaken there, in fact. Ignore me. Ignore me. But he is fighting for some pretty good points nonetheless. And Colin Kanee really does need to try and dispatch of him as quickly as possible. We're not halfway into the race yet, but if he doesn't dispatch of him, those championship hopes could soon walk away from him, really, this weekend. So he's shown some very good pace, as have all of the top three, but he needs to try and find that little edge over Alex Smith. We saw it in the hairpin, but unfortunately it's not a productive overtaking spot. He needs to look somewhere like the Nouvelle Chicane or Saint-Devote, but unfortunately for Saint-Devote it doesn't look like he's got straight line speed, so that kind of leaves him with very few options against the very quick Alex Smith. As we head further on into this race now, Matt Daly, who has led from lap 1, got a very good launch and has continued to lead. In fact, everyone had a very good launch pretty much. Not sure what happened with Stephen Knight's car, but very good start to the race for the drivers here. Very good to keep it out of the wall and away from each other, it must be said. So very good jobs. We see Alex Smith is now within a second of Matt Daly, so it looks like Alex Smith is carrying some serious straight line speed. Whatever setup he is using, it is working. And working a treat, as he pushes quite wide into Massenet there. And he doesn't dodge the bump in the downhill to pass from Casino. He doesn't dodge the bump, and it seems to work quite well. These cars won't be as sensitive as something like a modern Formula 1 car over that bump, just owing to weight, size, and lack of a billion aerodynamic pieces. They can probably ride the bumps a bit harder than some other faster formulas. But yeah, Alex Smith now providing a challenge to Matt Daly, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest, if you'd asked me a few laps ago. I expected, given the pace that Colin Kanee had, for him to be really stuck defending him, but no, Alex Smith has found some very good pace all of a sudden, and soon Matt Daly's going to be looking in his mirrors to try and keep this race win. Just over half a second now as we head into Rascas, separating P1 and P2. See Alex Smith riding the curb onto the start-finish straight there. Very risky. Less than half a second now. Alex Smith carrying some serious straight line speed on the start-finish straight now. Into Saint-Devote they go. Alex Smith setting their quickest lap of the race so far, a 134.4. He's lost out a little bit heading up into Beaurivage and Massenet, but he is putting some serious pressure on Matt Daly and has kind of left Colin Kanee in the dust, it must be said, as he makes a big mistake exiting Casino for Alex Smith there. That has ruined his charge on Matt Daly. Luckily he's been able to keep Colin Kanee behind. I'll be very surprised if he hasn't got some damage off there. It looked like the back end took a real clattering. Not quite what we saw with Charles Leclerc. He will be able to carry on, probably without checks. But as we head into the tunnel, now, that has really messed things up for Alex Smith. That will not be how he would have wanted this lap to have gone. Yeah, I'll be surprised if he's not carrying damage, and I'll be surprised now if Colin Kanee isn't even hungrier for that P2 now, as it looks like this could just be my eyes. I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. It looks like that front wing is a little bit wonky on Alex Smith's car, which is not what you need at all at Monaco. Any kind of dodgy front end is an absolute death sentence here. You need that good turning onto the entry of these slow speed corners. Fortunately, it looks like Alex Smith's charge for the lead of this race is somewhat fizzled out now. It was a fairly nasty hit. Xtinct is lucky to keep it in a straight line-ish. That could have easily spun around, maybe even collected Kanee and saw him relegated to the lower positions of the field. He's taking a far more conservative approach to that corner this time around. We saw Colin Kanee did have a little look up the inside, heading into Mirabeau. Unfortunately, he realised it was not quite close enough this time around. What we see again, Colin Kanee now getting achingly close, exiting the hairpin now as we head through Portier and into the tunnel. Colin Kanee is going to have a look around the outside. I think he's pretty much neck and neck, and if he plays his cars right, he will have the advantage into the Nouvelle Chicane. He doesn't have the inside line, bearing in mind, though. He's going to try and squeeze. He's not. He's going to have to concede that position. He did, just according to our time screen, take second for just a brief moment. He's now just over a second behind, though, as he had to really back out of it to avoid contact. And good of him to do so. If I was him, I may have had a look at using one of his 4 cutting warnings to have a bit of a cheeky shortcut into the Nouvelle Chicane, but that would have been pretty blatant in his defence, so he made the right choice there by diving in behind Alex Smith. He has got, as we head into the final 10 minutes of this race, he has got some more opportunities for an overtake. I am sure of it. Fair play to Alex Smith. He has, in fact, found some time and has caught up to Matt Daly a little bit. We saw the gap between him and Daly kind of hitting the low 2-second zone, and he has brought that down to about 1.3 seconds through the hairpin. Hasn't got the same challenge that he had last lap around in terms of Kanee being right alongside him this time around. Of course, these drivers are driving incredibly quickly, and at some point I may have to double check with the drivers, in fact, what the tyres are like at the end of this race, because it'll be interesting to know as we head into the reverse grid race. Yeah, there's definitely damage on Alex Smith's car there, so he's doing an excellent job of keeping it at a very good pace, as this part of the field has only gained 20 seconds on P4. Yeah, it'll be interesting to know what the tyres are looking like towards the end of this race. Because someone like Colin Kanee, or had he not had the accident, Alex Smith, could have played a very sneaky hand and preserved the tyres early on in the race and just had a huge advantage towards the end. Just over half a second now separating Alex Smith and Colin Kanee as we start a new lap. And Matt Daly didn't look particularly quick through Sandoval there. Alex Smith and Colin Kanee were both carrying a little bit more pace, I'd say, than Matt Daly. Not quite enough to challenge him yet, but has to be said, Matt Daly, despite his impressive pace in qualifying, in fact all three have had impressive pace, and despite the quite close battle that the two behind him have had, including a collision, he hasn't exactly walked away, so the cars behind him have got some really good pace. It didn't look like it was particularly quick through the hairpin there for Alex Smith. That'll be something for next time around that he'll be wanting to tidy up, I am sure, although to be fair to him, I can't imagine the front end of that car is particularly happy right now, and it's not an aero-sensitive part of the track, but your steering arms won't be happy with that type of collision, I am sure. And there's just under half a second now separating P2 and P3 on the exit of the Nouvelle Chicane, heading into to back and through into the swimming pool section now. The gap's staying pretty consistent. There's kind of a yo-yo effect going on, or as David Croft would put it, a concertina. Hasn't allowed the drivers to just sweep past as Colin Kanee would have wanted to. Less than a second now separating Alex Smith and Matt Daly. So it could be the case that Matt Daly's actually been pushing to try and keep these two very quick drivers behind, and we're starting to see the negative effects of that. Less than a second now as we exit Saint Devote. Alex Smith is doing a mighty job, it must be said, of keeping both Colin Kanee behind and Matt Daly close up in front, with considering the front wing damage that he is carrying. Less than half a second now for Alex Smith, but to be fair, it looked like it was just down to the fact that he was carrying at a huge amount of speed that he had to scrub off in order to keep it out of a barrier there. And I do apologise to the drivers further down the grid. If your sponsors are paying you, I will have to do a very quick roundup, but there's just been so much action happening out in front. It hasn't necessarily been Overtake Festival, but it's just been some very good racing. And all three drivers keeping each other in check, as we see Alex Smith on the exit of Portier has just had a little bit of rotation, and that has allowed Colin Kanee to get right up close behind. If he's brave under the brakes, it could work this time round. Alex Smith did kind of leave the door open a little bit, and we saw Colin Kanee kind of investigating that. Unfortunately, there's not enough room for even a Tartar Sevier 1 to get the move done. As we head through to back now, and through the Chiron chicane and into the swimming pool section. I suppose it's less of a chicane, more just the corner leading into another chicane. Lots of chicanes, and basically, if there's a corner here, it's twisty. That's all you need to know. Let's stop using technical terms. Just twisty bits, straight bits. Even the straight bits aren't that straight. Only the finest technical analysis here. So as we head onto a new lap with just under 5 minutes remaining, the drivers setting pretty equal lap times, and they're about to come across their first traffic, and it is going to be Steve Knight. Steve Knight will be getting the blue flag, but a blue flag's never particularly easy here. Here at Monaco. Just ask Nikita Mazepin. I apologise for that one. Nikita Mazepin was actually quite good in last weekend's Formula 1 race in terms of blue flags. As we head into the hairpin, we see Alex Smith has got a little bit closer to Matt Daly again, and Colin Kanee again even closer still. They are tantalisingly close as we head into the final stages of this race now. Alex Smith really clattering the wall quite hard on the exit of Portier. That must have done some pretty heavy damage. I can't imagine that helped him by any means. Just under half a second separating him and Colin Kanee. It's probably so frustrating for Colin Kanee, and a real workout for Alex Smith. He may not be happy with the situation at the moment, but it will help him out pretty big time in the reverse grid coming up in just a moment. He's proven that all of these drivers have got pretty good pace. They are pretty much on par with each other. So the reverse grid could be the break that some of these drivers need, as Steve Knight gets out of the way nicely on the start-finish straight. Matt Daly has had a notably slower lap in the lead than the drivers out in front. They really have been the class of the field, these three. But Alex Smith and Colin Kanee are able to put a little bit of pressure on him. But it's a really tricky situation for Alex Smith. He wants to put pressure on Matt Daly, but he cannot risk letting Colin Kanee by, because he will not have much opportunity to gain his second position back with just over 2 minutes of this race remaining. He's pushed a little bit wide there, has Alex Smith. He will have the inside line there, so I think he'll just about keep it, but his front end has really had a major test in this race. He's done an immense job to keep Colin Kanee behind, given the amount of damage he must be carrying by now. That'll easily be a Cat D, if not a Cat C, I can imagine, if you were to put this back up on Auto Trader. Two-tenths separating Colin Kanee as he has a little explore as we head through to back there. He chooses a sensible option. It might be... Oh! Alex Smith's had a little bit of a moment. I'm not sure if there's contact there between him and Colin Kanee. But as we head into Rascasse, they are side by side. And in fact, Colin Kanee has overtaken Alex Smith. But he does have the inside line through Rascasse and onto the start-finish straight. Should have the advantage. He doesn't, and he does in fact sit behind Colin Kanee now. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I wish we had a replay system in place. We don't, unfortunately, owing to a couple of technical difficulties. We've had quite a slow lap, have Colin Kanee and Alex Smith. That has allowed Matt Daly to creep out in front. But yeah, I'm not sure if he clattered a wall or had a little bit of contact with Colin Kanee. Nonetheless, he's, again, very lucky to keep it pointing relatively ahead. Alex Smith is using as much as the inside as possible, but I think the amount of damage he's carrying now, as we saw him hit the wall again, that is prohibiting him from doing that. He has managed to gain the position back from Colin Kanee, but it doesn't look particularly secure, it must be said. Alex Smith's car has really taken quite a battering now. That must be even more frustrating for Colin Kanee. Some impressive racing has been going on between these two drivers now. Alex Smith doing a very good job to keep it out ahead of Colin Kanee. He has clattered the wall again on the exit of Portier, and unfortunately I think Colin Kanee will be doing the overtake within the tunnel section. If he can edge out ahead enough, he can secure the Nouvelle Chicane. He's still on the outside though, and Alex Smith is going to be brave on the braking, and through the inside line is going to dive out in front under braking. Very good job from Alex Smith there. And as we head on, we're on the penultimate lap now, and soon we will be on the last lap of the race in just a moment, which I'll have to do a rundown of the other positions who have been going along nicely in this race, it must be said. It is looking very precarious for Alex Smith now. Through Rascasse, he is under immense pressure from Colin Kanee yet again. As we head onto the start-finish straight now, it looks like Alex Smith's car is really struggling a little bit now, must be said. So we have Matt Daly out in front in first. And for now, although it looks like this battle is going to continue right until the very end, we have Alex Smith in second, Colin Kanee in third. Behind them, we have Alan Matthews in fourth. He is going along nicely in fourth and has done for most of the race, as has Paul Millman in fifth. We then have Will Harper in sixth, with Guy Swarbrick about 5 seconds behind in seventh. And then we have Rob Whitney in eighth, with Steve Knight, who has just headed onto Beau Rivage in ninth there. Been an exciting race at the front of the pack here. Alex Smith has done an immense job. For me, he is the driver of the day. He has allowed a few mistakes to creep in, but he has put up an immense defensive drive against Colin Kanee, and at some points has been able to put Matt Daly, our race leader for the moment, under pressure. Don't count Colin Kanee out though, as we head into the final sector of this final lap of the race in just a moment. As we saw, Alex has allowed a couple of mistakes to creep in, and his luck could be about to run out at the very end of this race now. Into the swimming pool section we go then. Alex Smith still out in front. And in just a moment we are going to switch to the camera of our race leader as he heads through Rascasse. I don't want to take my eyes away from this incredibly enticing battle that is going for second position. I think Alex Smith has got it as Matt Daly crosses the line in first. Very good drive from him to secure first. He's had it the entire race. Alex Smith takes home second. Colin Kanee takes home third. Very well fought for all three of the top drivers here. Impressive drive. Coming home in fourth then, we have Alan Matthews, who heads through Rascasse now. I imagine the victory donuts are going to be immense for Matt Daly. In fact, we might have a bit of a victory parade. They deserve it. Very good drive from all three drivers now. As Alan Matthews crosses the line to take home fourth position. Nice points haul for him there. Paul Millman, again, very nicely done by him. He has had fifth fairly secure for the entire of the race, and will take home fifth again, and more good points for him. And Will Harper, relatively close behind, takes home sixth. Of course, all drivers in this race scoring points, so good job to them. Guy Swarbrick taking home seventh, as Rob Whitney approaches the swimming pool section to take home eighth. I think these guys want to carry on. Are they going for a parade lap, or are they deciding, you know, let's give it a couple more? By the look of things, they'd be happy to race all day long, as Rob Whitney heads on to the start-finish straight now. And will take home eighth. And we have Steve Knight heading into the Nouvelle Chicane there. I am anticipating some mighty victory donuts. All three do deserve to shred some rear tyres, it must be said. And into Chiron and into the swimming pool section goes Steve Knight. No, it's going to be a sensible one, a nice sensible return to the pit lane. for our podium there. Matt Daly extending his championship lead ever so slightly, taking home first position. Colin Kanee will be ahead of them in the reverse grid, but I know it's going to be a very close fight. As we have Steve Knight on the start-finish straight, I believe, but it won't show us him crossing the line. Very good job to all of the drivers there. It was very closely thought and very nicely battled out by all the drivers. It must be said, some really good driving. Got me very excited for the reverse grid race, which is coming up in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon. So you join us for the second part of the Monaco race weekend here for the reverse grid race. After the excitement of race 1 with that intense battle for the lead, we will now have our reverse grid. Hopefully the drivers will keep it clean. As we approach this reverse grid race, we have the very quick drivers of Matt Daly, Colin Kanee and Alex Smith at the back of the grid, who will be fighting their way to the front, hopefully keeping it clean as the gantries are lit. And we are away. Rob Whitney having quite a slow start there, it must be said. Can't make out who's in the lead at the moment. Unfortunately, my time screen hasn't found its way back. Steve Knight has been relegated to last position. Not sure if there's been a failure there, but we see Paul Millman has had contact. It looked like that was with... what's that? Matt Daly or Colin Kanee? But nevertheless, he has been spun out and now finds himself in last position. Tell you who is doing quite well is Alex Smith. Alex Smith has found his way up into 4th position already. Colin Kanee and Matt Daly have been left in 6th and 7th, and he's just been able to walk away. He has got past Will Harper and is now challenging Alan Matthews for the podium spots. As we head into the tunnel then, we have Guy Swarbrick in the lead. Will Harper has lost out quite heavily, it must be said. He has found himself in 5th position, while Guy Swarbrick, following Steve Knight's misfortunes, is currently maintaining the lead. Close behind him we have Rob Whitney in 2nd, heading through the Nouvelle Chicane now, and Colin Kanee has been able to overtake Will Harper on the Nouvelle Chicane, so very good job to him there. Matt Daly is hoping to make a similar move into the back. He backed out of it ever so slightly. He's right on the gearbox of Will Harper there. As we head through swimming pool now, a little bit of a gap has now separated between Colin Kanee and Will Harper. This is not playing into Matt Daly's hand. This is exactly the situation that Colin Kanee needs to find himself in. He just wishes he would be further up the grid. Alan Matthews is currently in 3rd position, who is giving a little bit of a challenge to Rob Whitney. As Colin Kanee heads through Saint-Devant now, it looks like Rob Whitney had a little bit of a collision with the wall there, I think. Or maybe that was Alan Matthews. Nevertheless, Alex Smith has tried to get an overtake on the inside of Massenet, and unfortunately that has really not worked out for him or Alex Smith. Alex Smith has been able to carry on, I think, and has now got Will Harper for company, but Alan Matthews has been demoted down to 8th position, and maybe... yeah, he can't quite get the car turned around in time. This could see him having a little bit of contact with... No, I think Paul Millman just too far behind at the moment. But now we find Colin Kanee in 3rd position and Alex Smith down in 4th. Matt Daly has been stuck behind Will Harper for quite a while, so this has played into Colin Kanee's hands nicely, that incident between Adam Matthews and Alex Smith. This is exactly what Colin Kanee needed in terms of his championship fight. Matt Daly is going to try down the inside of the Nouvelle Chicane into it, and it was very close there. He clipped the rear end onto the barrier there, but very brave under the braking from Matt Daly there, and now he'll be putting some pressure on Alex Smith. Alex Smith, again, I'll be surprised if he's not carrying damage, much like he did in the last race. He's already found a bit of a wall to have a play with the help of Alan Matthews there. The stewards will have a look at that one, I can imagine. I think it's probably going to be considered a racing incident, that one. It was, as we see, Will Harper getting a little bit of oversteer onto the start-finish straight there. And that is not a particularly nice... He's managed to get it recovered just in time, luckily, so there won't be a big accident there. It's not a place where you want to spin out, really. It's very tight on that section of the track. But that... I was about to say that now frees up a car behind. He's retained his position, so he hasn't lost out too much there, but he will have Steve Knight for company now. Alex Smith has been able to close up that gap on Colin Kanee, though. Alex Smith and Matt Daly showing some impressive pace there. Colin Kanee, who has got Rob Whitney for company now. I'll tell you what, the reverse grid is working very well here in Monaco, with the difficulties overtaking. Yeah, reverse grid working nicely. It's not totally impeding the quicker drivers, but it is giving them something to think about. They haven't found themselves filling the podium as they so often do in these reverse grid races. Very good effort from everyone involved. A couple of mistakes creeping in the first few laps, but such is the nature of a reverse grid race. It's always going to be a little bit of chaos as we head through to back now. Colin Kanee is very close to Rob Whitney. Looked like he was exploring a move down the inside, but he's going to go onto the inside into Chiron now. As we head through the swimming pool section, he's still behind for now, but my God, is he achingly close to 2nd position there. He's going to try into Raskas. He's going to try into Raskas, it looked, but it looked like he went a bit too deep on the brakes and has given a position to Alex Smith. This has not worked out well for him into Raskas at all. He's locked there, and I'm not sure if it was owing to just the lack of braking performance with the locked front left tyre. He kind of had a little bit of collision, and that has allowed Alex Smith to swoop on by, and now he's got pressure from Matt Daly as well, so Sector 3 of that lap did not play to his hand at all. Matt Daly is looking down the inside, but I'm sure he's not wanting a repeat of what happened to Alex Smith but a few laps ago. And, very cheeky move from Colin Kanee there. It was by no means intentional, I can imagine, but it was very aggressive. Just closed the door on Alex Smith, who had a look down the inside, as he did at Massenet when it did not work for him at all. So good for him to still have the confidence in the car and around this track to do some pretty aggressive manoeuvres, both drivers that is. Guy Swarbrick has been enjoying the lead for a good number of laps now. Very good effort from him. Of course, Guy Swarbrick puts an immense amount of effort into organising these events for us, and he is enjoying 1st position for the moment. A well-deserved 1st position for Guy Swarbrick there. With this pack of... Really, it's 4 cars fighting for P2, it must be said. This pack are slowing themselves up a considerable amount as they head through Chiron there. It's probably just about as many cars as you really want fighting each other. Rob Whitney has done a very good job then to keep the cars behind. He is taking a little bit of an inside line there, which isn't probably he probably wasn't the quickest on exit. And I imagine we'll just see a load of cars spring out in front of him, as it looks like it's Colin Kanee trying to dispatch of Alex Smith there. No, Alex Smith is going to go for a very brave, excellent move through Sandevot there. Very nicely done by Alex Smith. He goes around the outside, under braking into Sandevot. That takes some bravery, that does. I was about to say something else there, but I'll go with bravery. It looks like Rob Whitney isn't carrying that much speed through Massenet there. And now has Colin Kanee for company, who tried, I think, a move down the inside, although that could just be maybe a little bit of lag. Of course, we do have to take lag into account. He'd be very lucky to keep his front wing there, will be Colin Kanee. And unfortunately, it is still 4th position for Colin Kanee at the moment. Very good move from Alex Smith though, at the start of this lap. Yeah, well-deserved second position for him for the moment. He saw his opportunity and he took it. This battle, I imagine, will go on for quite a while. We probably will see Rob Whitney be dispatched of, just owing to the immense amount of pace that the other drivers have had behind, although I don't know the extent of the damage that Colin Kanee is carrying. If he is carrying any, he will soon be in the jaws of Matt Daly. Colin Kanee sticking his car on the outside a little bit there as we head through to back and into Sharon. And into the swimming pool section now. Alex Smith has shown some impressive pace and has gained a couple of seconds on this pack of 3, fighting for third position. Meanwhile, Guy Swarbrick has in fact extended his lead a little bit from a couple of seconds. It's now just over 3. So very good job from Guy Swarbrick so far. If he can keep it clean and keep it out of the water, he could be on for a very good result. We haven't seen the lap times really fall down into the mid 130s yet. All the cars still carrying a lot of fuel, of course, at the start of this 17 or so lap race. I think Colin Kanee much quicker through the exit of Casino there. And instead of having a minor collision, he does in fact get an overtake into Mirabeau. And it's a double overtake for Rob Whitney there. Very good job from Matt Daly to dive in at last second and into the hairpin. He takes 4th. Colin Kanee now in 3rd. He has got a few seconds though. Alex Smith has been able to just kind of walk away while this little battle's been going on. And Alex Smith's been kind of freed almost, now that he's been sitting in 2nd for a couple of laps. And Colin Kanee and Matt Daly might want to work together in order to keep their championship battle going and kind of lay off the intensive battling for a couple of laps while they catch up to Alex Smith. Alex Smith has found a second or so on Guy Swarbrick. If he can catch up to Guy Swarbrick before the cars behind catch up to him, he could find himself in a fairly good position for the win, using Guy Swarbrick as a bit of a moving roadblock. As we've seen over the past few laps, it is so difficult to overtake. I'm not sure what's happened there. The gap seems to have extended pretty substantially. Yeah, the gap seems to have gone up by a couple of seconds. There's now about a 5-second gap between Colin Kanee and Alex Smith. That could just be Alex Smith's pace, but there may have been a little bit of collision that I missed there. Sorry if I did. Hopefully the TV direction is to your liking. I don't have my Lance Stroll graphic in preparation, unfortunately. I imagine FOM will be on me if I was to play that small clip in the middle of some track action. As we see Alex Smith just creeping into a couple of seconds behind Guy Swarbrick now. As we see Matt Daly and Colin Kanee just enter the hairpin as Alex Smith exits it. Into the tunnel then. It's been a pretty intensive first 10 minutes of this race. We've got just about 15 minutes to go now. Some good on-track action, which is not always a given at Monaco, so some impressive driving so far. Particularly from this number 10 car, I think. He's done a very good job. A couple of mistakes have crept in a few times, but he's shown some real pace around this Monaco circuit. So at the moment then, we have Guy Swarbrick, who is retaining a lead for the moment, although as we can see, creeping into the background there, Alex Smith is hunting him down, and hunting him down fast. Alex Smith, of course, in 2nd position, with Colin Kanee in 3rd position, and Matt Daly in 4th. This gap kind of hasn't moved for the past couple of laps between these two, so I'm not sure if they are kind of staying comfy where they are to try and get themselves on the podium before they start battling with Alex Smith, and having almost a carbon copy of what we saw towards the end of race 1 there, as Colin Kanee goes fastest in this race so far, but a very quick 1:34.6. It's only a couple of tenths off Alex Smith's quickest lap in the previous race, so a nice lap from him there. He's nearly got a second on Matt Daly, in fact, now. And then, about 6 seconds behind them, we have Rob Whitney, and a few seconds behind them again, we have Will Harper. Will Harper's got some good pace to be just a few seconds behind Rob Whitney, after he found himself pointing the wrong way on the start-finish straight. Steve Knight is in 7th. Then he's sort of enjoying his own little race at the moment, as Alan Matthew is behind him down in 8th, unfortunately, owing to that misfortune he had at this corner here, where he found himself a bit of an obstacle in the middle of Matinee. Or pardon me, Massenet. I just made up my own corner there. And then a few seconds behind we have Paul Millman. Paul Millman unfortunately not enjoying the successes that he did in the previous race. I imagine owing to some type of steering wheel failure. Such are the joys of virtual racing. It looked like he just kind of parked for a picnic at Sandoval on lap 1. And he is unfortunately in last position for the moment. Alex Smith is now within a second of Guy Swarbrick as he heads into Rascasse now. Alex Smith can taste the lead of this race, something he didn't quite get to enjoy in race 1. He'll be hoping to keep Guy Swarbrick behind him and get a fairly decent air gap from the very quick Colin Kanee and Matt Daly behind now. We've got just over 10 minutes of this race remaining now. Been fairly action-packed so far. So see Guy Swarbrick not quite carrying the same, but it looks like there's a little bit of oversteer almost from him there through Massenet as we head through Casino and down into Mirabeau. Alex Smith is now very close behind. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I'm not sure if Guy Swarbrick outbraked himself and that caught Alex Smith out. Nevertheless, that really hasn't helped him, as now we see that Colin Kanee is only a second and a half behind and make that 1 second behind. As Will Harper and Rob Whitney's had another spin out, exiting Casino in the same place that Mick Schumacher had. Mick Schumacher had a much worse misfortunes. Rob Whitney now pits. Probably some pretty serious damage has seen Rob Whitney entering the pits there. Hopefully he can rejoin and continue on. But Colin Kanee has all of a sudden really caught up to Alex Smith quite well. I think Alex Smith maybe was held up a little bit by Guy Swarbrick there with that little bump into Mirabeau. But yeah, Guy Swarbrick and Matt Daly have caught up to Alex Smith quite quick. This has really turned on its head in the space of a lap, it must be said, really, for Alex Smith. He really could do with getting Guy Swarbrick between him and Colin Kanee now. As we head on to the start-finish straight, then looks like a little bit of oversteer for Alex Smith exiting onto the start-finish straight. That is not helpful at all. The gap is staying fairly consistent. Guy Swarbrick having a quicker lap that time round than Alex Smith, and that actually explains that delta between the two really shrinking as Guy Swarbrick and Alex Smith set 137s there. Meanwhile, Colin Kanee and Matt Daly were in the 134, so that has closed that gap right up. And we approach our first bit of lap traffic. It will be Rob Whitney, who has just been in the pit. Luckily he was able to carry on. But this could be quite confusing now, as we have some blue flag traffic to deal with, but also, oh dear, there's a little bit of contact there. Looks like Colin Kanee had a better exit. Oh dear, Colin Kanee's in a wall. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I'm not sure if it was contact with Matt Daly maybe, but this has not gone the way Colin Kanee would have wanted at all. Just moments ago, he was looking like he could maybe have an overtake done on Alex Smith, possibly for the lead of this race, but unfortunately he finds himself a good few seconds behind with just about 10 minutes to go. He finds himself a few seconds behind. Not quite sure what happened there. Not quite sure if it was just oversteer on his own accord, or it was a little bit of collision with Matt Daly. We did see a little bump happening, as Colin Kanee did get a better exit from the hairpin than Alex Smith. And yeah, Alex Smith maybe wasn't expecting him to be there, and there was a little bit of collision, but that didn't cause whatever just happened then. That has relieved Alex Smith of a little bit of pressure, although he does still have Matt Daly to contend with. He really needs to get past a Guy Swarbrick now in order to have any hopes of securing victory, I think. He could really do with a little bit of gap between him and the quicker cars behind. Colin Kanee, yeah, about 7 seconds slower on that lap, unfortunately. He's got to lap Rob Whitney again. Through Massenet then. He looked down the inside a little bit as we head through Casino now. Guy Swarbrick is hugging the inside line. Doesn't look like he's able to carry as much speed when he's doing that. And Matt Daly is now having a look down the inside as they head into the hairpin. Alex Smith moves over quite swiftly to make sure that Matt Daly doesn't take that third position. That second position, sorry. But however, Alex Smith doesn't have a very good exit through the hairpin, and he's now side by side with Matt Daly heading into the tunnel. Alex Smith does get the inside line through Portier though, and is just about able to keep him behind for now, although it is by no means secure. But this really hasn't gone the way Alex Smith would have wanted as we head into the Nouvelle Chicane. Oh, there's contact. There's contact. I was thinking that there might have been a little bit of a bump there. As Guy Swarbrick names everywhere in my mind at the moment. Alex Smith kind of closed the door a little bit on Matt Daly, but then Matt Daly was also, I think that was a racing incident. Matt Daly was also kind of exploring the inside line. That has allowed Colin Kanee to catch up quite nicely, and has allowed Guy Swarbrick to have a very decent gap again. So we are much in the same position that we were about 10 minutes ago. It's these three very quick drivers allowing a couple of mistakes to creep in, but still battling each other pretty intensely. It's anyone's game at the moment as Alex Smith. I was about to say it's anyone's game at the moment, but unfortunately Alex Smith has a huge amount of oversteer onto the start-finish straight and finds himself in 4th position now. It looks like those rear tyres are cooked, or maybe there's carrying some damage owing to those few collisions that he's had over the past few laps now. He unfortunately finds himself relegated to 4th position. Don't count him out entirely. We've seen he's got some impressive pace, but that car looks to be fairly unhappy now, and I think his charge for the lead is going to be over as we are now less than 10 minutes remaining for this race. Yeah, that front wing's fairly badly damaged on Alex Smith's car now. He's got about a 4-second gap. So that now sees Matt Daly in 2nd all of a sudden, with Colin Kanee in 3rd. He has recovered quite nicely from that collision that he had a few laps ago. So Colin Kanee still has hopes of retaining the championship battle if he can get past Matt Daly, maybe force a mistake and hunt down Guy Swarbrick. Guy Swarbrick, though, has held the lead, and held the lead well for a good number of laps. I'll have to double check, but this may be one of Guy Swarbrick's best charges for victory in the season so far. It's looked fairly secure for the moment. These guys keep pushing each other really hard to the limit, and it's not paid dividends for any of them, and it has allowed Guy Swarbrick to stay out in front. Guy Swarbrick has done exactly what I said he needed to at the start of the race, and kept cool, calm and collected, not let any mistakes creep in, and has been consistent, and it has paid dividends. He has had the held the lead for so many laps now, and he could be on for a very good result indeed. I'd say at least a podium, if a big mistake isn't allowed to creep in. It was a 1:39 for Guy Swarbrick there. It was not a quick lap by any means at all, and it has allowed Matt Daly and Colin Kanee, who were in the 1:36s, to catch up massively. Alex Smith isn't actually that far behind either. I said don't count him out. He's a very quick driver, and he isn't too far away from the battle again. We have got 5 seconds on the timer now. We'll, of course, have another lap added onto that towards the end. But we're approaching the closing stages of the final round of this weekend. Soon we'll be in the penultimate race, the penultimate round of this championship. It's gone very quickly, it must be said. I've enjoyed commentating on it thoroughly. My first time commentating was this season. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching as well. It's been some very good racing so far this season, as this race proves, I think. Less than a second now between Matt Daly and Guy Swarbrick. Guy Swarbrick is about to be under a huge amount of pressure. Let's see if he can carry on that trend of being cool, calm and collected as he exits the Nouvelle Chicane. Let's see if he can carry that on as he is under pressure by some of the quickest drivers in our championship. The defending title champion just behind him, and his closest opponent just behind him. So we've got 5 minutes remaining now, total race time. Guy Swarbrick is still in the leader's race. A little mistake has crept in there as he heads onto the start-finish straight. Will have lost a little bit of time, hopefully not taking any damage as he rides the curb a little bit too hard, kind of rides up on the curb and hits the wall a little bit into Sandoval. Oh, very, very good move from Guy Swarbrick there. Into Sandoval, takes the inside line and takes absolutely no prisoners at all. Very, very good form from Guy Swarbrick. I haven't seen much of this season, but I hope it carries on as he dings all a little bit into Massenet, and unfortunately it looks like he has lost first position. But that move into Sandoval was very brave, and he just about stuck. Some very good defensive moves from Guy Swarbrick there. Through the hairpin, now we have Matt Daly in the lead. Don't count Guy Swarbrick out of this. Definitely do not. He's on for at least a podium, I reckon. He's shown some really good pace around this Monaco circuit and has done an immense job to keep the lead for so long. Alex Smith has actually caught up very nicely. It looks like he is side by side with Colin Kanee at the moment, and Colin Kanee is going to go around the outside of the tunnel, but should have the inside into the Nouvelle Chicane. So it looks like for the moment, although Guy Swarbrick has made it, oh, it looks like a bit of a cut for Guy Swarbrick. There can't too many of them because he'll have a drive-through as we approach the final stages of this race. It was very borderline there through that curb, through the Nouvelle chicane. Some very good moves we are seeing from Guy Swarbrick here. It's the type of racing that I like to see. It has allowed Matt Daly to creep away a little bit, although it must be said, less than a second at some points. I should probably, as we are approaching the final stages of this race, do a quick rundown of the positions, but again, much like race 1, I cannot divert away from this battle for the lead. It has been very, very enticing, it must be said. Matt Daly had a fairly good lap there. It looks like the tyres are starting to come to the end of their life there. Everyone seems to be in kind of 137s, 138s now. We saw the 134s about halfway through the race. That seems to have ended now. Yeah, definitely a quicker line through that corner there is to hug the outside and then kind of keep in the middle almost before you head into Casino. Guy Swarbrick kind of getting his elbows out a little bit. And this has actually allowed Alex Smith to be back in contention for the podium. All of a sudden, Guy Swarbrick doing an immense job of keeping Colin Keith behind. A little bit of mistake crept in there on the exit of the hairpin. And Colin Keith is darting across the track to see if there is even the slightest hint of an opportunity of an overtake. I've seen this in Colin Keith driving a lot, and I really enjoy seeing it. Proper racing mindset on Colin Keith there. Colin Keith will have the inside into Sandoval again. If he's braver under braking, he will get the move done, but much like we saw on the previous lap, Guy Swarbrick is just going to close the door on him. Very good move there from Guy Swarbrick to keep Colin Keith behind. That is no mean feat at all. If you can keep this going, he'll be on for a very nice haul of points for Colin Keith. It looks like Colin Keith made a mistake. He has. He's made a mistake heading through to back. Oh dear, we've seen Colin Keith relegated to 4th position now. That has freed up Guy Swarbrick a little bit, although he does have Alex Smith for company now. What has happened there? Again, that'll be one that stewards might have to look at, actually. Just so much action, I can't quite work out what's going on. See a little bit of oversteer from Guy Swarbrick there, and that has now put him under immense pressure from Alex Smith, who is just about to overtake him there for 2nd position. Don't count Guy Swarbrick out yet, by no means. He's shown some very good moves so far as we head into the... We're on the penultimate lap of this race now. Alex Smith carrying damage. Guy Swarbrick doesn't seem to be carrying any damage, despite the very aggressive moves shown on occasion. It looks like he's tapped the wall a little bit, heading into Casino. What a shame for Colin Keith, though. Colin Keith down in 4th now. I don't think he's going to... He's got some very good pace. I don't think he's going to make up 10 seconds to catch up to the podium now. So he will have to settle for still a good point-scoring position of 4th, but not what he needs as he's fighting for a championship. Definitely not what he needs at all. He's going to need some very good races in Baku, Baku, if he wants any hope of this championship now. This has not gone the way that he would have wanted. So fairly far out in front now as he heads into Nouvelle chicane is Matt Daly. Alex Smith was fighting for this lead, as was Guy Swarbrick a few moments ago, and Colin Keith wasn't far off by any means a few laps ago. However, we now see Matt Daly out there in front. It's been a very good battle for the lead on the penultimate lap. And a little bit of a gap has now built between Alex Smith and Guy Swarbrick, so I'm going to use this as my... Oh dear! Huge amount of oversteer. We've seen that happen in F1 a couple of times. That won't have helped his front wing at all. We might see Colin Keith having a chance at the podium just yet if that was a significant amount of damage. Doesn't look like it was, though. Yeah, we've got... Looks like a little bit of a breather as we see Rob Whitney disconnecting, unfortunately. Looks like we've got a little bit of a breather now to do a rundown of the grids as we are on the final. Oh yeah, looks like the tyres on Guy Swarbrick's car are in fact very cooked. Oh dear, this is not what he needs at all. Colin Keith is going to be but moments away as he heads in. Yeah, there he is, heading into Sandoval. He's not going to be carrying that much speed, and his tyres are going to be dead after that spin around. So could be a good little battle for the podium nevertheless. Right, very quickly now. Well, I've got a little bit of a breather before Colin Keith puts some serious pressure on Guy Swarbrick. We have Matt Daly out in front, heading into the hairpin now. And fairly close behind is Alex Smith, finding himself in 2nd again. And we have Guy Swarbrick in 3rd for the moment, with Colin Keith hunting him down close behind in 4th. Then we have Will Harper. He has had a nice drive and has kept it in 5th for the moment. We have Steve Knight in 6th. With Paul Millman not too far behind at all, it must be said. We might have to watch this one on the final lap of this race. Then we have Adam Matthews, who had an unfortunate incident early on in the race, sees himself in 8th at the moment, and then we have Rob Whitney, who disconnected but a few moments ago. So my eyes are on Guy Swarbrick at the moment. If he can keep it clean, he is on for a podium here in Monaco. Very well-deserved podium for him, must be said, as he heads through the Nouvelle Chicane. About 10 seconds separating him and Alex Smith as Matt Daly, our current race leader. Unless anything dramatic happens in Rascasse, Matt Daly should be taking home the win. That's very well-deserved from Matt Daly. It's impressive. We can see Alex Smith getting familiar with the wall there. It shouldn't affect him too badly, but why not just a little bit of damage as Matt Daly crosses the line in first again. Very good drive this weekend at Monaco from Matt Daly, with Alex Smith coming home in second. Guy Swarbrick takes home a very well-deserved podium in third position. Well done to Guy Swarbrick there. He fought very hard in the lead for so long in this race, unfortunately losing out owing to a couple of mistakes. Very, very well done to Guy Swarbrick, though, taking home third. Third, Colin Kanee taking home fourth position. Will Harper crosses the line in fifth. Yeah, very well deserved from Guy Swarbrick there. Immense drive. Just stayed very calm. Unfortunately, a couple of mistakes did creep in, and he was under an immense amount of pressure from the cars behind. Still a very well deserved podium. Steve Knight takes home sixth, with Paul Millman taking home seventh. And then on to the start-finish straight now, we have Alan Matthews, seeing a little bit of rotation on to start-finish straight there, taking home 8th position. Now, it didn't happen last time around. I'm hoping to see some donuts. Thoroughly disappointed. Come on, guys, a little bit of Monaco donuts. We haven't got a swimming pool to jump in. I want to see some donuts. Because everyone is now making their way back to the pit lane, unless we're about to see them happen at the Nouvelle Chicane. No, we are not. So then that will conclude our weekend here in Monaco. Not an overtaking festival, but some very, very good racing happened there, fighting for the lead. Some unlikely opponents and some very close battling. It was some very fair and some very intense racing. I hope this carries on into Baku in a couple of weeks' time. We are approaching the closing stages of this championship now, and it's still not sealed. Matt Daly has had a very good weekend that has allowed him to eke out in front a little bit, but it's still between him and Colin Kanee for this championship. So I hope you will join us in a few weeks' time as we hope to see some more very impressive racing. We will see you next time.